They flooded my land to force me out. 5 acres of mountain paradise my grandfather built with his own hands, completely underwater, because an HOA president thought she could erase 70 years of family history. Janet Silverton stood at my property line in her perfect pink blazer, watching everything drown, and she smiled. Actually smiled. Then sent me a text: "Non-compliant properties have drainage issues, time to sell." She had attorneys. Deep pockets, an entire board backing her. I'm a veteran on a fixed income with nothing but my grandfather's old surveying tools and a stubborn streak. But she made one fatal mistake. Their entire drainage system was illegal. What I did next cost them $200,000 in damages, collapsed their HOA, and rewrote county law. They tried to bury me. I drowned them in their own corruption. Watch until the end to see the moment she realized she'd lost everything. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. I need to know how far this fight has reached. I'm standing in the middle of 5 acres of pure heaven. Emerald grass rolls down to a crystal-clear lake. Pine trees climb the mountainsides behind me. The air smells like cedar and wildflowers. This place, this exact piece of earth, has been in my family since 1952. My grandfather bought it for $3,000 after he came back from Korea. Built the cabin himself. Every board, every nail. Taught me how to fish in that lake when I was 6 years old. He died 8 months ago. Left it all to me. I thought I'd found paradise. I was wrong. The neighborhood changed while Grandpa was getting old. A luxury development called Summit Ridge Estates sprouted up around the property over the last decade. Million-dollar homes, manicured lawns, Tesla chargers in every driveway, and with it came the HOA. The kind that thinks a rulebook is a weapon. Janet Silverton knocked on my door 2 weeks after I moved in, mid-50s. Blonde bob cut so perfect it looked shellacked, pink blazer, pearl earrings. Holding a 3-ring binder thick as a Bible. "We need to discuss compliance," she said. "No hello, no welcome to the neighborhood, just compliance." I looked at the binder. "I'm not part of your HOA." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Everyone in Summit Ridge is part of the HOA. My property predates your development by 70 years, I said. "Check the county records." Her jaw tightened. "We'll see about that." She turned and walked away. That was 3 months ago. Since then, it's been a nightmare. Violation notices taped to my door. My truck's too old. My fence is the wrong color. My grass is 2 inches too tall. Every single notice signed by Janet Silverton, HOA president. I ignored them. Then the harassment started. HOA board members walking onto my property without permission, taking photos, measuring things. Janet herself standing at the property line with her arms crossed, watching me like a prison guard. I called the sheriff. They said it was a civil matter. I called a lawyer. $5,000 retainer just to send a letter. I'm a veteran living on disability and a small pension. I don't have that kind of money, so I kept my head down, tried to stay out of their way. But last week, everything changed. I woke up at dawn to a sound I'd never heard before. Rushing water. Loud, violent, like a river had appeared overnight. I pulled on my boots and ran outside. My entire backyard was underwater. A massive stream pouring down from the hillside above my property, turning the grass into a swamp. Drowning the flower beds Grandpa planted 40 years ago. The water was dark brown, thick with mud, seeping toward the cabin's foundation. This wasn't rain, this was engineered. I followed the flow uphill, my boots sinking into the mud with every step. My heart pounding, my hands shaking, and then I found it. A white PVC pipe, 4 inches in diameter. Jury-rigged into the community stormwater system, aimed directly at my land like a cannon. Someone had redirected the drainage to flood me out. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. Non-compliant properties tend to have drainage issues. Maybe it's time to sell. I looked up. Janet Silverton stood on the ridge above me, red blazer today, arms crossed, watching. She smiled, actually smiled. Then she turned and walked away. I stood there in the mud, water pouring past my feet, and felt something I hadn't felt since my last deployment. Pure rage. What caused the flood? How will I prove Janet did it? What's her real motive? The water didn't stop. For 3 days it kept coming, relentless, unstoppable. My beautiful green yard turned into a mud pit. The stone path Grandpa laid submerged, the old flower garden drowning. Water pooling around the cabin's foundation, seeping into the crawlspace. I spent every waking hour trying to control it. Digging trenches, piling sandbags, nothing worked. The flow was too strong, too deliberate. I called the county environmental office. They said they'd send an inspector. When? I asked. 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. My land would be destroyed by then. I called a lawyer. The retainer was still $5,000. Money I didn't have. I was alone. That night, I sat on the porch with a beer, watching the water destroy everything Grandpa built. The cabin he raised my father in. The land where I learned to be a man. My phone buzzed. Another text. Same unknown number. Tick-tock. I threw the phone across the porch, but then I stopped, took a breath, remembered my training, emotion is the enemy, strategy wins wars. I picked up the phone and started documenting everything. Photos of the flood, videos of the pipe, screenshots of the texts. Then I grabbed Grandpa's old surveying equipment from the shed. If they wanted a war, I'd fight it on my terms. I spent the next morning mapping the land, setting up the transit level, measuring elevations, tracing water flow. Summit Ridge Estate sits uphill from my property. Their fancy clubhouse, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, is built on a gentle slope. The natural drainage flows right past it, then down to my land. But they'd rerouted that drainage years ago, underground pipes, concrete channels, redirecting water away from their precious clubhouse, probably illegal. Definitely unpermitted. I started digging through county records online, zoning maps, permit applications, environmental impact studies, and there it was. The HOA never filed permits for their drainage system, they just built it. Which meant the entire system was unpermitted, unprotected by law. I leaned back in my chair and smiled for the first time in days. Janet thought she could flood me out, but she just handed me the blueprint to flood her right back. I spent the next 2 days gathering supplies. Shovels, more sandbags, PVC pipe connectors. I worked quietly, methodically. I wasn't ready to strike yet. First, I needed proof. I set up trail cameras around my property. 4 of them motion activated. Night vision, hidden in the trees. If Janet or her HOA goons came back to tamper with the pipe, I'd have them on video. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 3 nights later, at 11:47 p.m., the cameras lit up. 3 figures moving through the darkness toward the pipe. I opened the app on my phone and watched the live feed. Janet Silverton, pink blazer even at midnight. And 2 others, a man in his 60s, a woman in her 50s, both in business casual like they were attending a meeting. They were adjusting the pipe, increasing the flow. I zoomed in. The audio was crystal clear. "Make sure it hits the foundation," Janet said. "If there's structural damage, he'll have no choice but to sell." The man nodded. "What if he fights back?" Janet laughed. "With what? He's broke, he's alone, he's nobody." I saved the video, downloaded it to 3 separate drives, and smiled in the darkness. "Janet, you have no idea who you're dealing with. What will the cameras catch next? When will I strike back? Does Janet suspect I'm planning something?" I didn't sleep that night. I watched the footage over and over, Janet's face at the pipe, her voice admitting sabotage. The board members nodding along. I had them, but I didn't go to the police, not yet. I wanted them to know I knew. The next morning, I printed a still frame from the video. Janet's face, clear as day, standing at the illegal pipe. I drove to her house, a massive colonial at the top of Summit Ridge. Circular driveway, fountain in the front yard. I taped the photo to her front door. No note, no explanation, just the image. Then I left. 2 hours later, she was at my property line, furious. Her blonde bob was messy. Pink blazer buttoned wrong, face red with rage. "You're threatening me," she screamed across the boundary. I stepped onto my porch. Calm, collected. "No, Janet, I'm documenting you. That footage is illegal. You can't record people without consent." I almost laughed. "Actually, I can. This is my property. You're trespassing in the video, and you're admitting to vandalism and conspiracy." Her hands shook. "You think you're clever? You think you can fight us? We have lawyers. We have money. We have the entire board and 200 residents behind us." She stepped closer to the property line, right up to the edge. "You're alone," she hissed. "You're a nobody veteran living in a shack on land that should have been developed years ago. You don't belong here anymore." I looked her dead in the eye. "Water flows downhill, Janet. You should remember that." Her face went pale. She knew that phrase meant something, she just didn't know what. She stormed off, heels clicking on the pavement, but I saw it in her eyes before she turned away. Fear. She knew I had something planned, and she was right. That night I finalized everything. The HOA's drainage system was illegal. Their clubhouse sat at the perfect elevation. And the original creek bed, the one nature carved before they built their development, ran right past where the clubhouse now stood. All I had to do was restore it, remove their barriers. Let the water remember its natural path. It was legal, it was justified, and it was beautiful. I called my old army buddy Frank. He lived 2 hours away, ran a landscaping business. Owed me a favor from back in Afghanistan when I pulled him out of an ambush. "You need help with something?" he asked. "I need a backhoe and I need you to keep your mouth shut," he laughed. "When?" "Saturday night, the HOA has a gala. Everyone will be distracted." "I'm in." I hung up and looked at the flooded yard one last time. "Soon, Janet, soon you'll understand what it feels like to watch something you love get destroyed. Will the plan work? What if someone catches us? How will Janet react when she finds out?" Saturday night, 7:45 p.m. Frank's truck rolled up my driveway, backhoe on the trailer, lights off. The HOA gala was in full swing up the hill. I could hear the jazz band. See the lights glowing from the clubhouse windows. Laughter echoing across the valley. They were celebrating. Champagne, lobster tail, self-congratulation. They had no idea what was coming. Frank stepped out of the truck, big guy. Arms like tree trunks, beard down to his chest. You sure about this? He asked. I nodded. Positive. We got to work. Frank's backhoe carved through the earth like it was butter, reopening the old creek bed. The path nature intended before the HOA paved over it. I used shovels and sandbags to guide the flow, redirecting the water away from my property, toward theirs. The sound was incredible, water rushing, earth moving. The night alive with purpose. By 10 p.m. we were done. The water was flowing downhill, away from my cabin, following the original creek bed, straight toward the clubhouse foundation. We packed up. No evidence. No damage to their property yet, just water flowing where it naturally would. Legal, justified, perfect. Frank drove off. I went inside, poured a whiskey, and waited. At 11:32 p.m. my phone started buzzing, not a call. Notifications. The HOA Facebook group was exploding. Photos, videos, panic. The clubhouse basement was flooding, water pouring through the foundation walls, carpets soaked, electrical panels sparking, people screaming. The gala evacuated. I opened one video, Janet's voice shrill and panicked. Someone sabotaged us, call the police, call the fire department, people running. Women in gowns stepping through ankle-deep water. Men in tuxedos carrying chairs and equipment outside. Total chaos. I took a sip of whiskey and smiled, justice tastes good, but then my phone rang, unknown number. I answered. You're a dead man, Janet's voice shaking with rage. I know it was you, I know you did this, and I'm going to destroy you. Prove it, I said calmly. I don't need to prove it, I have lawyers, I have the board, I have 200 residents who will testify against you. Good luck with that, Janet. My water is flowing naturally, your system was illegal, you flooded me first, and I have video proof. Silence. Then this isn't over. No, I said, it's not, she hung up. I finished my whiskey and looked out the window at my land. The water was gone, the grass would recover, the cabin was safe. But I knew she wasn't done. People like Janet don't surrender, they escalate. Will the police arrest me? How will Janet retaliate? What happens to the clubhouse? Sunday morning. 7:14 a.m., pounding on my door. I opened it to find two sheriff's deputies, notebooks out, serious faces. We received a complaint about property damage, the older one said. Can we come in? I stepped aside. Coffee? They nodded. I made a pot while they stood in my kitchen, professional, polite, but watching me closely. Tell me what happened, I said, handing them mugs. The Summit Ridge HOA clubhouse flooded last night during an event. Significant damage. They're claiming you deliberately sabotaged their drainage system. I nodded slowly. Let me show you something. I pulled out my folder, everything organized, tabs labeled. County records showing the original creek bed. Proof the HOA's drainage system was unpermitted. Photos of my flooded yard from the past week. And the video, Janet at the pipe, her voice. Make sure it hits the foundation. The deputies watched in silence. When it ended, the younger one whistled low. That's damning. I didn't sabotage anything, I said. I restored natural water flow to protect my property. Their illegal system was flooding me. I have every right to defend my land. The older deputy closed his notebook. You should get a lawyer. They're talking about pressing charges. Let them try. They left, gave me copies of the complaint. Told me to stay available, but I could see it in their faces. They weren't arresting me. By noon, the HOA was in full meltdown, emergency board meeting, attorneys flying in from the city, insurance adjusters on site. The damage estimate came back $200,000, ruined marble floors, destroyed furniture, fried electrical systems. The basement was a total loss, and it was their fault, their illegal drainage, their unpermitted construction. Their arrogance. I should have felt victorious. But then my neighbor called. Old Mr. Brennan lives 3 houses down, good man. Son, you need to be careful, he said. His voice was shaking. I was at the board meeting this morning. Janet's talking about making this personal. She's not thinking straight. She's talking about, I don't know, just watch your back. I thanked him and hung up, making it personal. What did that mean? I found out 2 days later. What does personal mean? Will the HOA sue me? How far will Janet go? Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. A white news van pulled up to my property. Camera crew, reporter with perfect hair and a microphone, photographer. I stepped onto the porch. Sir, we're with Channel 7 News, the reporter said, shoving the microphone toward my face. Residents are saying you deliberately flooded a community center during a charity gala. Hundreds of thousands in damage. What's your response? I blinked. Janet had gone to the media, spun the entire story, made herself the victim, made the HOA into innocent community servants, made me into a villain. That's a lie, I said. They flooded my property first. I have proof. So you admit you caused the flooding. I restored natural drainage. Their system was illegal. Thank you for your time. They left just like that. The story aired that night at 6 p.m. Disgruntled veteran destroys community center in revenge plot. They showed footage of the flooded clubhouse, Janet crying on camera, residents shaking their heads, no context. No mention of what they did to me, no mention of their illegal system, just me, the villain. The comments section exploded. Lock him up. What a psycho. He should be in jail. Death threats filled my email. My phone rang nonstop. Blocked number after blocked number. I was being crucified, and Janet knew it. A text came through at 9 p.m. Sell now or this gets worse. I wanted to throw the phone through the wall, wanted to scream, but I didn't. I called my lawyer instead, a young guy named Tom who worked cheap because he hated bullies. Can we fix this? I asked. We can do better than fix it, Tom said. We can destroy her, but you need to go public, tell your side. All of it, video, documentation, everything. He was right. Janet controlled the narrative. It was time to take it back. I spent the next 12 hours putting together a video, 40 minutes long, my grandfather's deed, the flooded yard. The illegal pipe, the video of Janet sabotaging my property, county records proving their permits were fake, the reporter's hit piece dissected frame by frame. I spoke directly to the camera. They flooded my home. They tried to destroy my family's land, and when I defended myself legally, they lied to the world. I ended with this: if you live in an HOA, this could happen to you, watch out. I uploaded it to YouTube at midnight, titled, "The Truth About Summit Ridge HOA Fraud, Sabotage and Lies." Then I closed my laptop and tried to sleep. I didn't expect what happened next. How will people react? Will anyone believe me? What will Janet do when she sees this? I woke up to 10,000 views. By 9 a.m. it was 50,000, by noon 500,000. The video was exploding, comments poured in like a flood, thousands of them, people sharing their own HOA nightmares, people outraged. People demanding justice. This is exactly what happened to my parents. HOAs are legal extortion. Janet Silverton should be in prison. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, messages from strangers, interview requests. Legal offers, the local news that crucified me, they called asking for a statement. I ignored them, but then the real news picked it up. State news, national outlets. Veteran fights back against HOA tyranny. The narrative flipped overnight. Janet was no longer the victim. She was the villain, and the evidence was undeniable. The county opened an investigation into the HOA's unpermitted drainage system within 48 hours. Environmental violations. Zoning violations. Fraud. The state attorney general's office sent inspectors. Lawyers started circling, smelling blood. Class action lawsuit potential. Other residents coming forward with complaints. The HOA was collapsing, but Janet. She went silent. No interviews, no statements. Her Facebook went private. The HOA website was taken down, just silence. I should have felt relieved, but silence from someone like Janet isn't surrender, it's strategy. I found out what she was planning on Thursday night. I came home from the hardware store at 6 p.m. The sun was setting over the mountains. Beautiful orange light across the lake. I unlocked the cabin door and stepped inside. Something was wrong, nothing looked disturbed. Nothing stolen, but I could feel it. Someone had been here. I checked every room, closets, basement, nothing missing. Then I saw it. A note on the kitchen table, plain white paper, typed message. "You've made a big mistake." No signature, no threat, just those 5 words. My blood ran cold. This wasn't about lawsuits anymore. This was personal. I immediately called the sheriff, filed a breaking and entering report. They took the note. Dusted for prints, found nothing. Could be kids, the deputy said. Could be someone upset about the news coverage. But I knew better. This was Janet, or someone she sent. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark with my grandfather's shotgun across my lap, watching the windows, listening to every sound, the wind in the trees, an owl calling, my own heartbeat. At 2 a.m., motion lights triggered outside. I was on my feet instantly. Looked out the window, nothing, just darkness and trees, but something had tripped the sensor. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside, shotgun ready, swept the beam across the property, and found it, spray paint on the side of my truck. One word in red letters, leave. I called the sheriff again. They came, took photos, added it to the report, but I could see it in their eyes. This was escalating, and they couldn't protect me. The next morning, I installed security cameras everywhere, 8 of them, covering every angle, motion lights on every corner of the cabin, deadbolts on every door. I wasn't taking chances. But 2 days later, it got worse. I came outside to find all 4 of my truck tires slashed. Deep cuts, deliberate, my mailbox ripped out of the ground and thrown into the lake, graffiti on my fence, "You don't belong here." The sheriff came again, more photos. More reports. "We can increase patrols," they said, "but without catching someone in the act." I knew what that meant. I was on my own. That night Frank called, "You need to see this." He sent me a link, a private Facebook group. Concerned Summit Ridge residents, 200 members. I scrolled through the posts. Janet was in there, rallying people, posting lies, organizing. "He's dangerous. He's trying to destroy our community. We need to make him leave by any means necessary." My hands shook reading those words. Any means necessary. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was mob mentality. 200 people united against one man. I sat on the porch that night looking at the lake. Grandpa's lake. And for the first time since this started, I thought about giving up. Selling, walking away, starting over somewhere else. It would be easier, safer. But then I remembered why I was here. This land wasn't just property, it was legacy. It was everything my grandfather built with his bare hands. It was home. And I'd be damned if I let some HOA tyrant take it from me. I wasn't giving up, I was going nuclear. What does going nuclear mean? How will I stop 200 people? What's the final plan? I made a decision that night, no more defense, only offense. I called Sarah Mitchells, a property rights attorney out of Denver, reputation for destroying HOAs in court. Her consultation fee was $500, I paid it. Tell me everything, she said. I did every detail, the flooding, the harassment, the break-in, the threats, the mob. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, we're going to sue them into oblivion. I don't have money for a long court battle. You won't need it. This case is so egregious, we'll get emergency injunctions. And when we win, not if, when they'll pay your legal fees. Plus damages. Hope flickered in my chest for the first time in weeks. What do we do first? We file tomorrow, federal court, civil rights violations, harassment, intimidation, conspiracy. We name Janet personally. The entire board, the HOA as an entity, and we ask for $2 million in damages. $2 million, the number hit me like a truck. Is that realistic? With what they've done, absolutely. And here's the beautiful part, the lawsuit itself will scare off half the board. HOAs fall apart when individual members face personal liability. We filed on Monday morning. The lawsuit made headlines by noon. Veteran sues HOA for $2 million in landmark property rights case. My phone exploded again, but this time it was different. Support. A legal defense fund appeared online, strangers donating $50. $100, $500. By Wednesday, it had raised $50,000. Letters arrived from across the country. Other HOA victims, people cheering me on. You're fighting for all of us. Don't back down. We're with you. I wasn't alone anymore. The HOA tried to settle within a week. Their lawyer called Sarah, offered $100,000 to make it go away. Sarah called me. What do you want to do? I didn't hesitate. No, you sure that's real money? This isn't about money, it's about accountability. Janet needs to answer for what she did. Sarah laughed. Good. Because I was hoping you'd say that. We rejected the offer. The HOA panicked. Emergency meetings every night, lawyers billing hundreds of thousands, residents demanding answers, and then the cracks started showing. 3 board members resigned within 2 weeks, citing the lawsuit, citing Janet's leadership. Families started opting out of the HOA entirely. A dozen homes filed paperwork to leave. The HOA was hemorrhaging members and money. Then the insurance company dropped them. Too much liability, too much fraud, too many violations. Without insurance, the HOA couldn't function. Their attorney withdrew from the case. It was collapsing in real time. And I watched it happen with quiet satisfaction. But Janet still hadn't broken. She called me directly, bypassed the lawyers. Her voice was different, smaller, desperate. What do you want? I could hear the defeat in her tone. Resignation. Public apology, full restitution for all damages to my property. Silence on the line, long, heavy, painful, then, fine, she hung up. I sat there holding the phone, stunned. I'd won, but it didn't feel like victory yet. Not until I saw it with my own eyes. Will Janet actually follow through? What happens at the final confrontation? Is this really the end? Janet's resignation letter went out 3 days later. Public. Posted on the HOA website before it was taken down permanently. After careful consideration, I am stepping down as HOA president effective immediately. I apologize for any distress caused to residents during my tenure. No mention of me, no real apology, but it was enough. The board dissolved 2 weeks later. Couldn't get enough members to maintain a quorum. Summit Ridge HOA officially ceased to exist. The lawsuit settled for $400,000. My lawyer took her cut, the rest was mine. I used it to restore the land. New drainage system, properly permitted this time. Landscaping repairs, foundation waterproofing, new fencing. The cabin got a fresh roof, new windows, the porch Grandpa built reinforced and refinished. Better than it ever was, but the real victory came from the county. They passed a new ordinance 3 months after the lawsuit settled. The Grandfather Property Protection Act. Any property that predates an HOA by more than 20 years is permanently exempt from all HOA rules, fees, and regulations. Protected by law, my fight had changed the rules not just for me, for everyone. I got letters from people across the state. Other property owners who'd been harassed by HOAs thanking me, telling me I'd saved their homes. One letter came from an elderly woman in Colorado Springs. My husband built our home in 1965. The HOA tried to force us out last year. Because of your case, they can't touch us now. You saved our home. Thank you. I kept that letter on my fridge because that's what this was really about, not revenge, justice. People started visiting sometimes. Folks who'd seen the video, who'd followed the case, they'd knock on the door, introduce themselves. Ask to see the land, I always said yes. Made coffee, showed them around, let them see what we'd fought for, and I'd tell them Grandpa's words. Water flows downhill, so does justice. They'd nod, shake my hand, leave with something in their eyes. Hope that good people can still win. Janet moved away 4 months after the settlement, sold her house, left the state. I heard she's in Arizona now, far from here. I don't think about her much anymore. This story was never really about her. It was about the land, about standing your ground when the world tries to crush you, about knowing your rights and fighting for them, and about never ever backing down. Will there be a final confrontation? What does the future hold? Is the fight really over? I'm standing on the porch now. Same porch Grandpa built in 1953. The lake is calm, mirror smooth, reflecting the mountains like glass. The grass is green again, thick and healthy. The flower beds are blooming, everything he planted, everything he built, still here, still standing. It's been 6 months since the lawsuit settled, 6 months since Janet left, 6 months of peace. The land looks better than it has in decades. The water flows naturally now, following the creek bed nature carved thousands of years ago. No more floods, no more harassment, no more violations, just quiet, just home. I sit out here most mornings with coffee, watching the sun come up over the ridge, the same ridge where Janet used to stand, watching me, smiling. Now it's just mine. Sometimes I think about what this all cost, the stress, the sleepless nights, the fear. But then I look at the land. And I know it was worth it. Every second, people still reach out sometimes. Messages on YouTube, emails, letters, sharing their own stories, asking for advice, thanking me. I answer when I can. Because I remember what it felt like to be alone in that fight. And nobody should feel that way. Last week, a young couple drove up from New Mexico. Their property was being targeted by an HOA. They'd seen my video. We didn't know what to do, the woman said, until we saw your story. Now we're fighting back. I gave them copies of my legal documents, contact info for Sarah, advice on documentation. They left with tears in their eyes. Thank you for showing us it's possible. That's when I realized something. This story isn't just mine anymore. It belongs to everyone who's ever been bullied by corrupt authority, everyone who's ever felt powerless against the system, everyone who's ever wondered if one person can make a difference. The answer is yes, you can. The county named a trail after Grandpa last month. The William Clayton Memorial Path runs along the creek bed we restored. I walked it opening day, saw families hiking, kids playing in the water, using the land the way it was meant to be used, free, open, natural. Grandpa would have loved that. I still get angry sometimes, thinking about what Janet did, what she tried to take, but mostly I feel grateful. Grateful for this place, for the people who supported me, for the laws that protected me, and grateful I didn't give up. Because this land, this beautiful, perfect piece of earth, is exactly where I'm supposed to be. It's my inheritance, my legacy, my home, and no HOA, no bully, no corrupt authority will ever take it from me again. What's the final message? How does this story end? What should others learn from this? The story could end there, but it doesn't, because 3 months ago something unexpected happened. I got a call from the state legislature. A representative named David Torres, Property Rights Committee. Mr. Clayton, we'd like you to testify. About what? We're drafting comprehensive HOA reform legislation. Your case exposed systemic problems. We want to hear your story in person. I drove to the state capitol the following week, sat in front of a committee of 12 legislators, and I told them everything. The flooding, the harassment, the illegal drainage, the mob tactics. How one HOA president nearly destroyed 70 years of family history. They listened in silence. When I finished, Representative Torres leaned forward. What would you have done differently? Nothing, I said. I fought within the law. I documented everything. I stood my ground. That's what everyone should do. What do other property owners need? I thought about that, about all the letters I'd received, all the people fighting similar battles. Protection, I said. Clear laws, accountability for HOA boards, criminal penalties for harassment and fraud, and a fast, affordable legal process to fight back. They drafted the bill 2 months later. The Homeowner Protection Act. It included criminal penalties for HOA harassment, mandatory transparency in HOA finances, expedited legal processes for property rights disputes, and a clause that specifically protected pre-existing properties, named after my grandfather. The Clayton exemption. The bill passed last month, signed into law by the governor. I was there when he signed it. Stood behind him with other property rights advocates, watched him put pen to paper, making my fight into permanent law. When it was over, the governor shook my hand. You didn't just save your land, he said. You saved thousands of homes across this state. I drove back to the cabin that night, parked in the driveway, looked at the mountains, and I thought about Grandpa, about how he'd built this place with nothing but determination and calloused hands, how he'd taught me to fight for what's right, how he'd never given up on anything in his life. I'd carried that lesson into battle, and one not just for me, for everyone. The next morning, I walked down to the lake. Same lake where Grandpa taught me to fish. The water was clear, the air smelled like pine, and I realized something profound. This fight was never about revenge, it was about justice. It was about proving that one person standing on principle can change the world. That the law still means something, that good people can still win. I picked up a stone, smooth and round. Grandpa used to skip them across the water. I threw it, watched it bounce. Once, twice, 3 times, then disappear beneath the surface, ripples spreading outward, reaching the far shore. That's what this story became. A ripple that spread far beyond my 5 acres, touching lives I'll never meet. Protecting homes I'll never see, creating change that will last long after I'm gone. Grandpa would be proud, I know I am. What does the future hold? How should this story be remembered? What's the final message? I'm standing on the porch again. It's early morning, the sun is just breaking over the ridge, golden light spilling across the lake. The mountains dark against the sky, the air is cold, clean, perfect. This is my favorite time of day, when the world is quiet. When it's just me and the land. No HOAs, no lawyers, no battles, just peace. The cabin behind me is solid, warm, exactly as Grandpa built it. The land around me is healthy, green, thriving, everything we fought for. Everything we saved. People ask me sometimes if it was worth it. The stress, the money, the danger, they ask if I'd do it again, and I always give them the same answer without hesitation. Yes, because this land is more than property, it's legacy. It's memory, it's every Sunday morning Grandpa took me fishing. Every lesson he taught me about integrity and perseverance. It's my father's childhood. My childhood, the foundation of who I am. You don't walk away from that. You don't surrender it to corruption, you fight. With every tool you have, every legal right, every ounce of determination. And you win not because you're stronger, not because you're richer, but because you're right. And in the end, that still matters. The law still matters, truth still matters, justice still matters. I learned something through this fight, something I want everyone watching to understand. You're not powerless. Even when they have money, even when they have lawyers, even when they have an entire organization behind them. You have rights, you have the law, and if you're willing to stand your ground, document everything and fight smart, not angry, you can win. I did, countless others have. And you can too, so if you're facing something similar, if an HOA is targeting you, if corrupt authority is trying to take what's yours, don't back down, document everything. Know your rights, get a good lawyer. And remember what my grandfather taught me, water flows downhill, so does justice. It might take time, it might be hard, but it flows and it wins. I'm not going anywhere. This land is mine, now and forever, protected by law. Earned through battle, kept through strength. I'll die on this porch someday, looking at this lake, these mountains, this perfect piece of earth. And when I do, I'll leave it to someone who will fight for it the same way. Because that's what legacy means. Not just passing down land, but passing down the will to protect it, the courage to stand up, the refusal to surrender. That's the real inheritance. And it's worth more than any HOA could ever understand. The sun is fully up now. The lake is shimmering. The birds are singing. Another perfect morning, another day in paradise, my paradise, hard won, well-earned, forever mine. This is home, and nobody will ever take it from me again. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, if it gave you hope, leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Share your own HOA story. Let's build a community of people who refuse to back down. Because together, we're stronger than any corrupt board could ever be. And if you know someone fighting a similar battle, share this video. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know they can win, just like I did. Thanks for watching. And remember, justice flows downhill.